I feel like it's a discussion that is worth having. And I'm not here to protest or start a riot or anything, but it has recently come to my attention that we people in we people in America have had 18 school shootings this year. Hi, Ricky. That's 18 school shootings too many. I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. Things do happen. I'm just saying people who wish to buy guns should be able to buy guns, but people should be going through questions after questions after questions, and they should be tested for mental health issues before they buy a gun. Because we're talking about just an ordinary day could turn into a massacre. People don't know the consequences of school shootings could be a disaster. No, I'm not crying. Because honestly, I've been through my fair share of school shootings. I've survived many. And I'm here to advocate for people who have been through these situations and have lost family members. So, people need to realize that murder is very serious. And I don't know if this generation after my generation will even know that as it's a huge thing. People don't realize what the consequences of murder actually are. Like, it's ridiculous, and in my personal opinion, I may cause a riot because of this, but I think America needs stricter gun laws. Because 18 school shootings in a year is ridiculous. You're putting innocent lives in danger, which should never happen. This world is already full of crazies. We don't need innocent children who just want to get a proper education dying. We don't need that, and I don't want that, and I will not stand for that. When I was in second grade, my school went in lockdown because one of my friend's dads brought a gun to school. I was scared. I thought I was going to die. And today I read a report that in Ohio, a middle school student tried to take their own lives.
Here we are.
Who, in their right mind, lets their kid own or possess a firearm?
How old was
Why?
the kid?
Who in their right mind?
Yeah, how old is the kid?
Parents should know how to send their children to school concerned. They should come home safe or not. Exactly my point. because people should be like very aware of what they expose their kids to, even on social media.
Right.
When it comes to stuff like video games, people don't realize that a lot of video games that are being created nowadays can portray substantial amounts of violence. And me, for one, I'm not a huge fan of like GTA or Call of Duty Black Ops. Granted, I support the military, but I do not and will not ever support criminalized activity using firearms. That is something that I highly stand against. Homeschool 2018 plus. Even I was homeschooled. Ricky, I was homeschooled when I graduated elementary school into middle school, went back to public school in high school only freshman year. Only because my depression got so bad due to me being bullied. And my parents were concerned for my safety. So, because I used to come home with cuts and bruises and black eyes and bloody noses, and it wasn't fun. People, and especially parents and even step parents, should be highly aware of what their children are exposed to on social media, regardless if it's like something as juvenile as someone pretending to brandish a gun. You don't know that person who's consuming that into their minds. They could take that in a whole different way. Completely different. Yeah, it's no joke. No, it's not a joke whatsoever. Because when people are like, yeah, like, I'm so sick of my teachers, blah, 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 I'm gonna finally do something about it. No, that's when you get the police involved. Do not send your children to school. As soon as it's reported, either keep your kids at home, or if they continue to push the subject, call the police. Because if you send your kid to school and they bring weapons or contraband of any type on the school premises, they are putting innocent lives at risk. And that's something I will never stand for. Innocent lives should not be taken just for self-gratification. I'm probably frozen, aren't I? Just recently, I read about a middle school student shooting himself in school. Suicide is already an epidemic. And my thoughts and prayers go out to the family of that child. But like suicide and like a bunch of firearm related violence is already become an epidemic. I've grown up in a generation where only your parents or police officers or people of a very higher standing are possessing firearms, but now people are letting their children near firearms. Honestly, in my opinion, I'd rather have people do the Tide Pod challenge rather bringing their guns to school or being around firearms.
Oh no!
Like,
That's got cracked, too.
my message is to parents and people out there: keep your guns in a safe that only you can open. Childproof it. Because it's already a huge problem as it is. And honestly, in my personal opinion, people wonder, like, people wish that the apocalypse would come sooner than later because of stuff like this. And honestly, I don't blame them. And people are like, well, it's natural selection. And I'm just like, no, it's not natural selection. Okay. Kids with unstable mental health conditions are accessing firearms. How? They should run background tests on mental health and criminalized activity. For one, I took a step ahead. I already got tested. And according to my government in the state that I live in, I cannot own a firearm because of my depression. Which, to be fair, I had no interest in owning a gun anyway. But it is what it is. But if any of you guys out there that are watching know anyone who has suffered through firearm related violence or anything like tragic due to a firearm, let them see this broadcast. I am here for you guys. I'm here broadcasting to help all of you guys out on very tough circumstances. And I know I've been there. I've been in your shoes. Just my recommendation is, if your kid's already suffering in school due to like bullying and just out of fear of going to school because of the school shootings are being such, like, they're chaotic. It is, and it's traumatizing. And just, this is why I endorse homeschooling and cyberschooling, because therefore, like, you don't have to be afraid out to school because you're at home. The benefit of being homeschooled and cyberschooled is you don't have a time to wake up. You can go to school in your pajamas because you're technically at home. You're doing your schoolwork at home, which is great. You get to work on your own pace. And you don't have to worry about bullying and carrying around like 50 to 75 pounds of textbooks. Even then, so I don't know all of your guys' opinion on the recent tragic events that happened, but my support and the best of wishes and prayers go out to the families of the victims of these tragic events. And I hope that people just come to realize that our children are in danger, even in school, trying to get a decent education. It really makes me sad, and it makes me upset that almost every day or every other day that I wake up, I turn on the TV and the first thing that I see is schools are being shot, or just the whole world is turning into this massive ball of chaos. And that shouldn't happen. Granted, I know stuff does happen and I can't control that. But some people just have to realize the danger that our kids are in by going to school is real. And that shouldn't be. Our children should not ever be afraid to go to school, to learn, to get a decent education. That shouldn't happen, guys.
All right, well, hold on a second, Dean.
Call your Congress. Call your House of Representatives. I'm going to start a petition to tighten gun laws. You don't have to get rid of your guns. You can keep them. Lock them away in a safe place where your children cannot reach them. Because people already are dying in this world from natural causes, murder, suicide, and it's just this huge thing. Death in itself is a tragedy. We don't need innocent kids dying. That's something that I possibly and personally do not stand for. I don't ever condone the acts of violence. Hello, Nicole. I don't condone the acts of violence with firearms, especially in schools. People take things like this for granted, and honestly, it makes me sick to my stomach. Because, again, as I mentioned before in this broadcast, and I will repeat it until people have it confirmed in their heads, this whole epidemic is real. Real kids are putting into really bad and dangerous situations. Really bad. People don't realize, and some people don't care. But to be fair, I've had enough. And I'm advocating for people who have been through situations like these. Gun-related violence or not. Violence is violence. Don't do it around your kids. If people suffer through mental health issues, you don't have to be on medication. At least talk to someone about it. Doesn't have to be a professional. Just vent out your feelings in a healthy manner. So tragedies like these don't have to happen. I've lost friends to school shootings. My parents almost lost me to a school shooting. I've also lost friends to gun-related violence and suicide. When I read about that middle school student who was rushed to the hospital, I'm from the United States. Um, I don't disclose my personal information. Um, but I'm a very sad and distraught American transgender male, um, who is just sick and fed up with the government just freely handing guns to people who's possibly suffering through a lot of mental health situations. If people have anger issues, they shouldn't own guns. If they're prone to violence or if they're susceptible towards anger problems, they shouldn't own guns. No one under the age of 21 should own a gun. No one with mental health problems, extreme mental health problems, should own a gun. Because it's 2018 and we've already had a multitude of dying people as per gun-related violence. I'm already touchy on the subject as it is. And I honestly think America's government can do so much better. I will not sit here and protest all day. I will call Congress and I will tell them a lot of us Americans have had enough of gun-related violence, including in schools. It's already a tragedy that so many innocent kids have lost their lives. So many. I've heard of that situation. It's just, it's sad. It's honestly sad that this is the world that we live in. You would honestly think, after how many people died during Columbine, that school shooting, people would have learned their lesson. Then it moved on to so many other school shootings, including Sandy Hook. And then it went on to violent crimes against the LGBTQ plus community during the Pulse. And to be fair, I've grown very weary, to be honest. My camera just went off. I don't know why it did that. But it's unfortunate that the world that we live in is just growing more and more and more violent. It's sad. It saddens me, personally. It does. I'm here to support anyone. I don't judge people. It's not my place. If you or someone you know has suffered through any sort of violence or have depression or have thoughts of suicide, I'm here for you. I've been there. I've been in your footsteps. I know how it feels to want to take your own life. I know how it feels. I survived so many attempts. I'm not here to say suicide is okay. It's not. I'm here to say that if you need a friend to talk to, let me know. Post something on my page, and I'll connect you to my Facebook, my Instagram, and all of my social media so that you have someone to talk to. No one should have to go through stuff like this. Nobody. This has been a very serious broadcast. I hope to have a fun and uplifting broadcast sometime soon. But as for now, let this be a moment of reflection and let us all take time out of our days to remember those innocent children we have lost due to these tragedies. I'm here for you guys. Stay strong. Be safe. Thank you so much for listening to my broadcast. And I hope that you all have a good day.